stress markers that we saw. Years ago, Ricardo Weinstein collected a lot of data from individuals in death row inmates, and to determine sentencing, they want to know everything about their past, and they would find out individuals who had been sexually abused, physically abused, witness of violence, and along that line. And we found a general association with those who are physically or verbally abused, which show problems on the left auditory cortex in this view, and those who are sexually or emotionally abused would be on the right. Well, a lot of people I now have recorded since then, I know isn't all about abuse, but this is how we would now call them stress markers. They're sensitive to abuse, but not specific, meaning if you were abused, you're going to have the marker. But if you have the marker, you may be more just a stress situation. Now, the interesting thing is yellow is a problem, but blue can also be a problem. Sometimes blue is a strength, meaning you put more of your thought in the process into those functions served by that area. But it also means, why are you doing that? Why are you putting more on the emotional side or the verbal side? Is it because you're having to deal with someone who's constantly stressing you out? So you can see here, not as much improvement as we want, because we got this one still needs work, and this one did improve a great deal. But this is a mid map, not a post the treatment. They were still continuing it. Now you can look at the markers here. This is the auditory cortex, and here's area 22 that was taken out. The area. The marker itself is using those areas before. So now we can see different parts of it, and 22 has a little different function than the auditory cortex. And now showing you the suicide marker, it was out here. It was a stress marker, and so right there you can see how. And almost all the suicides will show stress. Here we go, and there's the marker. In essence, it's area 22 and the auditory cortex. Primarily the auditory cortex, but we're going to pick up area 22 in the other view. This is the one that separates and puts the 22s out here. But you can see, look at that orange in there. Orange. This is, again, the blue one. This is an interesting individual himself. Again, the whole thing is you personalize what to do. Yeah, this person is having trouble with the verbal stuff, not as much as the emotional or social side. Still, blue is not good, but we don't want orange like that. Okay. And here's an example of after 30 hours of training. This one resolved. This one needed more work. You can see, again, the auditory cortex. Now, that was completely green. That's all normal. We're going to now talk about how those who respond to stress, to becoming impulsive. And one of the things we see often is young children who are very impulsive because their brain is immature. And we can see individually what areas are most immature and improve the maturity there, accelerate it. One of the first things you see about immature brains is that their sensory system, their sampling rate is slower than the adult speed. It takes around age 10 before you are going 10 frames a second, 10 hertz. But there's this rate of increase that we want to be seeing in children. And around, like, for instance, if you're 8 years old, should be going almost 9 hertz. And if you're 9 years old, you're going about 9.5 hertz. There's this standard curve. And those who are lagging in speed often seem to have egocentrism problems, too much id in a way. And we want to we can accelerate it. We can get the person up by reward because we're training the efficient habits. I like to give the analogy. Once you learn your brain learns the efficient habit, it doesn't go back to the inefficient one. Just like if you've been driving to the airport one way, and then one day someone gives you the shortcut, take this route, take La Cienega, don't take 405, don't take the highway. And all of a sudden you realize, oh my God, I get there in half the time. I'm never going to take the long way again. Once your brain maturation is similar to that. Once it learns the efficient habit, it doesn't do the inefficient. There's no benefit to it. Okay, so this kid, Jacob, was impulsive and immature, and you can see he was on 8 years old, and he needs to be going around almost 9 hertz, 8.5 plus or minus 1 approximately. So you can see he's got some slowness up here in the front, and this is decision-making areas. These are 19 regions. The head, you can see I'm showing the right hemisphere, but the left hemisphere would double it, plus 1 because we pull out Broca's area on the left side. That's why it's an odd number, 19 regions, I like to call it. And so You can see he's doing okay in the back of the head. That's pretty good speed back here, but he's a little immature in the decision making. Decision making is going on here. Well, after 30 sessions of default network training, picking up speed, because we're reinforcing the faster speed. The brain goes, hey, this is more efficient. It likes the efficient habit. And you can see that improvement. Now, another way to look at it is with spectral plots. And again, we want to get an alpha peak. Eventually, we like the alpha peak to look like this all the way through the head. Not at Jacob's age, but if you, by the time you're 20, like 25, 27, it should look like that. If you're healthy, well organized. The interesting thing about pink noise is a sign of being taken care of. When you have that low, and called pink noise is a slow frequency activity. That activity from like 0 to 7, if it's dominating, that's decortication. Well, 0 to like 3.5 is 0 to 4 hertz is decortication. It's the delta activity. Neocortex is just on its own, doing these energy cascades, not being organized by the cycles, the sampling cycles of the sensory system, the thalamocortical system. So that sampling cycles are here, this alpha peak. We see it in there. That's the tallying up of all the sampling. And but you see excessive amount of that low frequency, and that's a good sign that you're being taken care of, but it's a sign of immaturity. You want to start seeing more alpha. You can see that blue. Red is the previous time, and blue is 30 hours of neurofeedback. You see much more alpha coming in. Not much more, but it's starting to come through. Interesting, you got harmonics out here. Now, harmonics, we're going to talk about another video, and that's sometimes harmonics are where you allowing the environment to be the one in charge of those functions, in essence, like the mother typically, or the father. Okay, when you take that data and you compare it to the healthy group, we want to get green here. We don't want the pink. That's excess. We don't want blue. That's the deficiency. And you can see there was an excess down here because he's slower than he should be. It's in the 7 hertz range. And a little bit of deficit of the alpha, which is getting closer to normal. So that's good. But as I've said before in these videos, this is the minor player. The major player is the maturation index that we get from the theta unity. And so he had literally what I call a psychotic risk marker. Now, how can an 8-year-old be psychotic? Almost all 8-year-olds are probably psychotic at some level, but this is a measure that the singlets are too much in charge. The singlets are in charge when you're the only mind out there. Usually you catch it, your singlets in charge at like age 4 and 5 and 6 before you get socialized. It's literally a marker of lack of socialization. When I first started studying people using this type of data analysis, the first people who had markers like that were all rapists. And I used to call my rapist marker, and then non-rapists would show up. And eventually we found out I had some psychotic people show up in the data base and coming in to be assessed. And a lot of times, fortunately, it wasn't me who had to assess them. Someone sent me data, and they say this person has had a psychotic break, and they'd have that marker. Well, I learned that it isn't always psychotic. I see it in depressed individuals and others, but it's sort of like that sense that you're not fully socialized. And look, and it goes from orange, and in the theta unity will go to the blue color, and you can see him normalizing there. Look, that's a beautiful normalization. In fact, he left, I think, after like 40 hours. Typically, that's what we want to shoot for. It may even be 35 hours, but he did very well. The mom said that he was happy again too. And she was like really rewarded by his behavior, that you returned a happy child to me compared to the stressed out, impulsive child that was there before. And it only took, I don't know what it was, 2 months of time doing neurofeedback. This is the back of the head for him. This is an impulsivity marker, and sometimes it can even lead to vulnerability and dyslexia, which he did have. This is a little bit interesting how this went yellow. Usually this is I call this the maternal hub, and the mom's side is the mom over involved. That's changing there, but you see that lack of distractibility. This is measure sometimes the social anxiety and handling visual complexity getting better. And again, it goes from orange to blue before it gets to the green. So blue is heading towards the green that we want. And now the middle of the head, kind of the same. Got a little bit more on the auditory, right? This is better. This is the areas we start imitation and action plans, area 40. How you deal with others, area 6, it can be invasive. But you can see it's normalizing. The auditory cortex left is completely normal there. And here's the front of the head. And then blue is like sometimes it's underconnected. It's where where your thought goes. Here's hierarchy. And hierarchy processing involves, it can be part of language functioning, but in fluency, esoteric fluency, but it is often a lot of sequencing and planning. So you're not planning well. Now it's normalized. Everything's getting much better. Okay. We have another kid. No, this isn't a kid. This is an adult. Just to show, one of the problems with when it comes to stress, can lead to addiction. And I'm going to look at addiction in another video. But here's an individual who went through 30 sessions and suddenly reducing that decortication out here, but had a lot of harmonics. One reason why the person had a lot of harmonics was in a halfway house, in a home where you had to always listen to other people. And that harmonics were necessary. You want to get rid of them eventually at some degree. Harmonics we'll talk about later, but it deals with the range of how do you accommodate others, or you collaborating in a positive way with others. And those harmonics are partly the torture of living in that halfway house. Okay, and that is it. And we'll come back to you soon with a new video.